Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
Welcome to Elevate Your Event, the podcast that's all about taking your fundraising event to the next level. Today, we're talking with David Farmer from FCA South Denver about how they turned golf tournaments and steak dinners into powerful, donor-driven experiences. From small wins to big risks, this one's packed with lessons you don't want to miss. Let's dive in.
All right, well, welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we talk about all the various ways you can make your next fundraising event better. And we've got a special guest in the studio. We don't get a lot of in-person guests, but we were able to talk this guy into coming in and visiting us. Well, please welcome David Farmer. He is the area director for FCA South Denver.
Yeah, thanks for letting me jump on here, Mr.
Oh,
Porter.
David, you're one of my favorite people in the world.
That's good to know.
So thank you for coming in. We are here to talk about events.
Awesome.
So tell us a little bit about FCA. For those folks who aren't necessarily from, I mean, some people have probably heard of it, but what you guys do at FCA, and then in the South Denver area, you know, kind of what your mission field looks like, and, you know, kind of what your struggles are, especially because we're going to get into fundraising and events here in a second.
Oh, that's a hot topic for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so FCA has been around since 1954, and really the cool part about FCA is that it started actually right here in Colorado at Estes Park. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so a guy by the name of Don McLennan saw how professional athletes were being used to leverage products, and he thought, well, can they be leveraged for the gospel? And so he rallied them all here at Estes Park. They did a camp, which is kind of an event. Yeah. And these athletes got fired up from a guy named Billy Graham, who a lot of people in the faith community know who that guy is. Yeah. And then, they all got fired up and went back into their homes and places where they play sports and started sharing the gospel. And then they created these, what they call huddles, these on-campus or off-campuses Bible studies. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how FCA got started. So now, 2024, we're a global ministry in 115 countries around the world. We're in every state in the United States, even Utah, which is kind of crazy to think. And then we're right here locally in South Denver.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So in the South Denver area, we have campus huddles, these Bible studies, in about 45 different schools. We work with nearly 2,500 coaches and athletes on a weekly basis. And we run, probably 6 to 8 events a year.
So let's talk about the need, and then obviously how we fulfill the need. So the need here, you've got 2,500 students and athletes and coaches that you're working with on a weekly basis. But what percentage of the total is that really? It's got to be a low percentage, I would think.
As far as
how many more people do you think you want to reach?
We have a goal to reach what we call critical mass, and we want to reach a 10% of every high school. So any given high school here in South Denver, probably 3,000 to 4,000 kids, and 75% of those kids probably play some sort of sports. So you're talking, if you can get 1,000 to 1,500 kids involved in FCA campus, you're hitting critical mass, which then changes the game. You create influence.
Okay, so how many high schools are in Arapahoe County?
Just in Arapahoe County, 24.
24. So your goal is to get to 24,000 kids.
Yes.
Okay. And you're at 2,500.
Yeah, we got a long way to go.
Right.
But that's what excites us, because we don't never have to worry about the need.
Right.
We never have to worry about reaching kids because the need is so great. So
the way to do that is you got to go out there and raise money, because obviously if you're going to be trying to reach 10x what you're currently reaching, you're going to need more people on campus, more, what do you call them, area reps, right?
We call them area reps, yeah.
Yeah. So these reps need to be at these schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so to do that, you need to fund them. So we need to go out and raise some money, right?
Yeah, that is always the hot topic within the organization is how do you raise money? I'll be just a little frank. One of the challenges that we face is that our organization doesn't have a development team. So what they do is they empower local staff to sort of be fundraisers and develop their own personal support. And and there's a lot of challenges that we can get into all that. But my job is sort of to be the chief fundraiser for a staff of a dozen to reach all these 2,500 kids.
And so that development degree and fundraising degree you got in college is helping, right?
Yes, it sure is. It sure is.
So so full disclosure, I sit on your advisory board, so I understand some of these things, but let's kind of dive into this a little bit. You've got a number of area reps, and you're obviously trying to increase that number. And these people are out there raising their own support, so they're basically out there fundraising for their own salary.
They are. They are.
And so that's one area that you're collecting income or funds from. And there's some pros and cons to that entire model. And this is an Elevate Your Event podcast, not a proper way to fundraise content. Right. So that one's probably left for another day. It's got its pros and cons.
Yes.
Right. I mean, obviously there's some skin in the game, but there's also a lack of a real connection between FCA and some of these donors, because the connection resides with the area rep.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So then another area would be the general community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to reach them, you do events.
We do.
Okay. So let's talk about how those evolved over the years. So you've been in and around FCA for a long time. Like, what did you tell me? Like 14 years or something like that?
Here's a crazy story. So I was in graduate school, and upon completion I had to do an internship. And somehow that's how I discovered FCA. And I had to do what we call a God and breakfast event. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. Senior Open was at the Broadmoor, and we brought in a guy by the name of David Cook, who's a renowned author.
I know him.
That wrote 7 Days of Utopia and did this movie. So then we took some.
When he was a professional golfer's
psychologist,
mental coach.
Yeah. So I called and brought him in, and we had about 4 or 5 U.S. Senior Open players come and share their testimony, like a Q&A, kind of like a conversation with champions.
Yeah.
And so we did this down in Colorado Springs, and it was such a hit. FCA is like, hey, how would you like to come on staff? And I thought it was going to be to minister to athletes and coaches, but I think they hired me to do events. So that was like my first event ever. And from then, being on staff cumulatively over 14 years, I mean, we've done dinners and golf events and luncheons and marathon runs and all kinds of different things.
Yes. We call them the a-thons.
Yes.
So there's a lot of those a-thons, right? I mean, anyway, we can get into that because I think you guys you've changed it a little bit, but it was 100 holes of golf, which to me is a marathon of golf, if not more.
It is a marathon for sure.
So, okay. So outside, so we're trying to supplement the income coming in from area reps, because obviously we need to go out there and, maybe, give them a little bit of runway to kind of get up to support, but also be able to, cover them when they have a bad month or something like that. So we're going to go out there and we're going to raise money through other means. Okay. And this isn't a show about grants, but grants is another avenue.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So for this one with events, we're going to go out there and we're going to have these events, and we're going to try to attract or invite the general community to these events. So, so let's go back. So you come back in to the FCA world in 2017.
I did, yeah.
And what events were they running back then?
So they were running a few golf tournaments. They were doing there was a dinner, something called the Bill McCartney dinner. They had just kind of launched. And I think they were doing this 100-hole golf marathon. But other than that, that was really it.
For all of Denver?
South. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think when I came on board, I was kind of asking the questions of like, well, what are we doing to expose potential donors other than these couple events? And then are we attracting the right people? And there was no consistency. There was no real strategic plan on how to leverage events to attract people to the ministry that we can then engage them
to expand beyond. So I'm an area rep and I'm going to go out. This is almost like peer-to-peer fundraising, right? I'm going to go out and I'm going to attract my friends and family to support me.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one area. Okay. But how do we get the general public?
Yeah.
Okay. The business community, you name it, to get connected to what FCA is doing outside of supporting an area rep.
Yeah.
And so you walk in the door and you're thinking like, okay, so I have a couple of golf tournaments. I've got a Bill McCartney dinner. what are we doing to, one, attract people to those? What kind of relationship can I start at those?
Yeah.
Right, because golf tournaments, look, let's be honest, right? Everybody likes golf tournaments, like some people do, right? The problem with golf tournaments is really, really hard to connect with people at golf tournaments.
Oh, it's almost impossible because, even if you host and you're seeing every foursome come through, it's like, hey, how's it going? Great, so glad you're here, and then they're off.
Right.
If you play, you're only connecting with 3 or 4 guys. But a golf tournament, you have to realize, like, hey, you're going to make a small amount of money on your return, and you have to think of it as this is just a small way of connecting with people, and then you hope that you can build off of that.
You've got to put your staff at a par 3 where it's backed up and then like talk. I mean,
yes.
Because you're right. Like what else do you do? So you've got these golf tournaments. People are doing that. 100 holes of golf is just a peer-to-peer fundraiser.
Totally is.
Right? I mean,
but the margin on that, though, is amazing if you can get the course for free or at a discounted price.
Right.
So that's a great fundraiser on a profit side of it. But again, the whole idea of an event is to cultivate the relationship to where a donor would then say, hey, I want to invest into this ministry beyond just coming to a typical golf tournament or even a dinner.
Yeah. So outside of that, we end up doing, and I was not on your advisory board at the time, but you start doing a gala dinner night, right? I mean, that was at the barn, I believe.
Yeah, we did. We did a couple tournaments before I think you had jumped on, but I think you had brought in the idea of doing the 2-day event where we did do a dinner and then a golf tournament the next day.
Yeah, we couldn't get you guys to let go of the golf tournament, so
well, we may be letting it go soon here. It's just a fun event. I mean, it is fun, and
golf tournaments are fun for the golfers and stuff. But I think the challenge there was what we just discussed, right?
Yeah.
Like how am I going to build a connection with everybody? So,
and not only that, I think too, there's hundreds of golf tournaments now, and I think that's such a typical fundraiser for a lot of nonprofits to do a golf tournament because it's easy versus something that could be way more profitable and attract even a different type of donor. I think of an event like where could we go clay shooting or pigeon shooting?
Right.
Could you create a donor experience where there's an overnight component to it, or I have this vision to do an event where we call it the best day ever, where you do like you play 9 holes or 18 holes, you go shooting, and you drive like a race car, right? So like you create this experience.
Sounds like a dude's day.
Like, right? Like
I think my wife would consider the best day ever to be somewhere in a spa with a haircut and stuff.
Right. But again, that's another way. So yeah.
But okay, so
yeah, go back to the.
Okay, so you've done these events, and I think even prior to you coming back around, FCA had done some galas in the past that I thought, even as an attendee, I thought were fairly successful.
Yeah.
I mean, raising decent amount of money, having 300 or 400 or 500 people in the room, it's not a bad.
No.
And those kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
You come back in, and then we're looking at these golf tournaments, and we're saying, we're just not growing a donor base from this. Right. And so what we look at, right, and what we've talked about is, as a fundraiser, I want to see that list grow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I want my constant contact database getting bigger. And so to do that, coming from some experience and other events that we've done for Handbid, I said, look, this seems to be the trend. Mm-hmm. That we're going to do a gala on Sunday night and a golf tournament on Monday morning, because you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to connect with everybody Sunday night.
Right.
And then the golfers are going to go play golf on Monday. Mm-hmm. You don't have the stress of trying to do an auction at your golf tournament. Right. You can do all that on Sunday night.
Right.
And you have the opportunity to sit there in front of them at the gala and talk about what the organization's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a dual threat, like you hit in one group. And, I've always heard that wives usually are the ones that spend the discretionary income. So if you can get them and captivate them with the stories, usually they're the ones that say, hey, let's give, let's invest. And then the guys go play golf and, do their thing and have fun.
Not to say that there aren't women that play golf.
Right.
So anyway, but to your point, right, a lot of times spouses aren't going out on a foursome together.
No.
Okay.
No.
But spouses do want to make family level decisions about how they want to support an organization. And so I'm not going to say unlikely, but pretty rare that some guy's going to show up or some lady's going to show up at the golf tournament, get moved by some 10-minute talk and donate $5,000 and go home and tell their spouse, hey, how's the golf tournament, honey? Great. I donated $5,000.
If somebody figures that secret sauce, let me know, because that's never happened to me before.
I've not seen it. Because I think a lot of times these families want to make those decisions together.
Yeah.
And so when they're sitting at a table together, they can do that. So you don't want to lose the golf tournament. You want to keep that fun element to it. We had the gala the night before, and we did our first. And this was not the first time the Osbornes had hosted this event for FCA,
right?
But we decided to do it down at the barn, and then we had the golf tournament the next day.
Yeah.
Tell us, how was that first one?
It was a learning curve for sure, because I had never personally done anything like that. So there was a learning curve, a lot of elements of the event to just grow in and put together. But at the end, it was awesome because we did get to connect with donors. We did get to share a story. We get to try to touch into that emotional side of people, to ask them, hey, would you invest into this? I think we raised, 60, 70 grand, which was pretty good.
For your first event?
Yeah, for our first event, we really didn't have a baseline of what we could do. And so we were very pleased. There were mistakes that we made and things that we can definitely could learn from. But overall, hitting that sort of goal was pretty cool. So, and the venue was awesome. So that we couldn't go wrong there for sure.
Right. So let's talk about the kind of the organization and the prep of your first event.
Yes.
Okay. Because let's be honest, let's talk, like, we have a lot of people listening to this podcast and they're thinking the same thing. Like, my staff is very good at X, Y, or Z.
Oh, yeah.
They're not event planners, and they're definitely not auction managers and software users and you name it. So you're rolling into this very first event. Like, what are you leaning on, and who's helping you guys figure this out, honestly?
Well, we leaned on you a little bit. We leaned on, when we agreed to do the event at the barn, we agreed with, I think they had an event planner, not only the Osbornes, but Pam. And the nice thing about her is she created a timeline of, like, these are the things that you need to get done. These are the things that you need to accomplish. And we sort of leaned on each other as directors that were part of the event, because we realized very quickly, like you said, that our area reps are fantastic when it comes to being in the schools and ministering to the coaches and the athletes and doing the thing that they are called to do. But they don't have capacity or time to go get donation items. And we learned that very quickly. And when we did put that pressure on them, we didn't get the results that we wanted to. So we had to learn very quickly that you better have committees and volunteers that's what they specifically go do.
Yeah.
And we found a couple people that they just loved going to every McDonald's, yogurt shop, wherever they could find something free, they went. And so that was the saving grace, as we found a couple people that just love to do that. And then we leveraged the relationships we had with some donors and our board to get some larger items that could be bidded on. But we had to lean on each other first, because this was all trial by error, and like, hey, we're spreading our wings here, learning how this works, because we'd have never done anything like this before.
It was brand new.
Yeah.
And so let's talk. I mean, let's go through the good, the bad, and the ugly of your first event, because we're talking about how we elevated it, right?
Yeah.
So that first event was good.
Yeah, it was good.
We
It was
said
decent.
that. It was good, right? There were some parts about it that were not great. I mean, there were some, and I'm not picking on the staff at all. Like, there were some mistakes the auctioneer made,
Sure.
And as everything happens at events, they don't go on time. Right?
Yes. I think we were there till like 10:30.
Might have been. And so in terms of, like, the donor experience, do you feel like you created a good donor experience at that event?
Yeah, I think overall, I think people were having a good time, and I think that's largely because the venue. You walk into this venue and here's all these cool classic cars, and everybody's dressed up in sort of Western theme. We even had a guy come dressed up and had like a holster, and so I think the theme, the venue, really created the experience to have a good time. The food was good.
I'd agree with all of that.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody really understood.
I don't think they noticed.
Like no.
That was the thing, and it's all about lessons learned, right? So at your event, we knew,
yes,
in the people in the know who knew kind of the run of show, knew what was being messed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing is tragic. I mean, I just want to kind of point that out. Anybody listening to the show, everything is overcomable, and it's kind of like the never let them see you sweat. It's like one of those things where it's like, look, it's the first event. We're going to make some mistakes. Everybody involved is going to make a mistake here or there.
Yeah.
The overall experience was good. I think the guests had a fantastic time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right. It did run late. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we had some grumpy board members who, were upset about that and wanted to go to bed earlier than that. It was also, unfortunately, now I don't really care about this, but it was on the night of a Broncos game.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, it sure was.
Okay.
I still give a board member crap that he didn't come because the Broncos were more important than supporting the charity that he's
I think
part
that's
of.
I 100% agree with you. But these are the things we ran into. My Derby event that just happened was on the night of the Nuggets and the Avalanche.
Right.
And this guy says to me, he comes up and he's like, "Are you going to show the Nuggets game and the Avalanche game on the big screen?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to show the horse race, and then we're going to have this country music concert with an artist we brought in from Nashville." And he's looking at me like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, that's really Can you not miss a game? It's fine. This isn't the end of the world." But again, these kinds of things happen.
Yeah, but I think too though when you're doing events, I think learning some of this, it's important to figure out. Is there a Bronco game? Is there a Nuggets game? Is there any outside?
We knew, yes, you should definitely schedule
right.
on a, look, there's always going to be, unless it's a bye weekend or something. It just so happened that they moved the game to Sunday night.
Gotcha. Okay. So they flexed it.
We knew the Broncos, I think they were playing the 49ers or something. So we knew the Broncos were playing the 49ers. And then they're like, "Hey, that's going to be the Sunday night game this week." We're like, perfect. That's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
We wanted,
yes.
So anyway, okay. So there were some little hiccups here or there, right? And then you had some board members that I think were probably overly critical of how it went, because I think one of the things we collectively did not do a good job of is setting expectations on what is reasonable for a gala that you've run for the first time in probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Not really over those 5 or 6 years from when you ran your last gala. FCA, let's be brutally honest, FCA had done nothing to nurture these donors.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we're starting over with that. We deliver this event. It's for the most part good. Mm-hmm. It has some hiccups here or there. It raises $60,000. I call that a win.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay.
I would too.
Are we satisfied with that? Because $60,000, think about it. We're trying to go from 2,500 kids to 25,000 kids.
It's a lot. Need a lot of money.
We're going to need a lot more money than $60,000.
Right.
And we know, we've run the numbers, right? We're going to need $6 million, not $60,000.
That's right. We will.
Right. So, okay. So we regroup.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the golf tournament was fine. We did the golf tournament the next day, and it was for the most part fine.
Yeah. Other than the dude's head getting scalped, but other than that, no big deal.
Some guy falling off a golf cart. So that was bad. Okay. But these things happen.
It does.
Okay.
That's the fun part of events. Is You just never know what's going to happen sometimes.
So then we decide, okay, so how do we elevate this?
Yeah.
Okay. So what did we discuss at that point? When we're kind of going through it?
Yeah, I think we regrouped, and I think we started asking the questions of, was was our auction items good? Did we do a good ask? Did we really touch into the emotional part of a donor? Did the people that we wanted to be there, were they inviting high capacity people? We asked those types of questions. We talked through just some logistical stuff and registration and price points and different things like that. So those are all things that we thought maybe we can elevate to attract different people and raise more money.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So what we decide to do at that point is we decided, I think part of this was because we were fairly confident the barn would not be available again.
Right.
Okay. And it was a barn. And so the barn is awesome, but to your point, it kind of creates this cowboy country theme.
It does.
Right. And we're thinking, okay, so if we want to elevate this, we want to go a little bit more high end. We decide to do what?
We went to Fleming Steakhouse.
Yeah, so we rent out the entire Fleming Steakhouse, which I have seen charities do before in Denver.
Yeah. And we also moved the golf courses to a higher end golf course. We went to Cherry Creek Country Club.
Yes, so we upgrade the golf course, and then we also upgrade the venue to Fleming's, and with the intention of, hey, look, this is going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
Right, and we're gonna have to raise our table prices. It can't be a $800 table anymore.
And I was like nervous. Like, are we really gonna do this? Like, this is scary. Like, there's a lot of money that we're putting into this to elevate our game. And so I was like, I hope this works.
Well, let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're bringing up a good point, which is we took some risks.
We did.
Right, and I do this even at my own event. I'll say we're gonna take this risk. The worst case is we're going to break even on it.
Right.
We're not going to lose money. Okay. I mean, I think a lot of organizations are like, I don't want to make that change because then I'm going to lose money.
Yeah.
It's probably rare that you're going to lose money unless it completely flops.
Right.
But I mean, the cost of a person at Fleming's is a couple $100.
It is.
And so I can't sell a $250 ticket and have it cost like $150 or $160 a person. Think golf tournaments. It's very similar, right?
Yes.
I mean, we turn our
Margins
Gala
low.
into a golf tournament. The margins aren't there unless you raise these prices up.
Right.
So now we need a minimum of $300 or $400 a person is kind of our goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so I know you're nervous, but it's like, okay, well, the worst case is we're not going to lose money because we figured out how many seats we needed to sell to pay for the venue.
Right. So then we elevated our sponsorship packages and what we can offer people. And so that was really helpful. And there was a lot of discussion in that with our board, which I think then sort of gives you confidence of, okay, we can actually do this because there's just wisdom in that. When everybody who's kind of been around events, including you, and we're like, hey, let's elevate this and let's sell this. I think that gives confidence to the director, like, okay, we can sell. We're at least going to break even. And then, man, if we raise anything above that, that's awesome.
Right. So think about it. Like, this is what we talked about, right?
Yeah.
So we're in this board meeting. We're chatting about needing to elevate these sponsorship packages. And look, there's people in that room that are like, that's too expensive for me. Okay, well, it's not necessarily about you, but I get that.
Right.
You're going to have to find some other buddies to do this. But outside of that, what we talked about is it's really hard to get somebody to give you a $10,000 sponsorship when that's your highest level. But when there's a level that's at 15 or 20 or 25, $10,000 looks like the middle of the pack they're going to give it. And so we were sitting there talking like, we got to have a $25,000 title sponsor or whatever you want to call it, like event sponsor. Right. And everybody's like, oh, no one's ever going to pay that. I go, no, probably not. But they're going to pay 10 because it's going to be in the middle.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. I think there's almost a perception when, if you're only putting 10,000 out there, then, what's the perception of the nonprofit versus if you have it tiered where it's, 30, 20, 10 or whatever. I think that, automatically you're starting to attract businesses or people. And so then that 10,000 doesn't seem so daunting, especially if 2 or 3 people say, yeah, I'll jump in. Well, that's more money than you had last year.
Exactly
just by changing just that little portion.
Well,
of
and
the
we did
sponsorship.
that. We did that at my Derby event. Was we had these fire pit tables and they seat 6 people. In the beginning, we're like, okay, well, let's just make them $2,400.
Yeah.
and we have 22 of them. So I got to sell 22 $2,400 tables at, and people are like, God, that's so expensive or whatever. Do you know what made them sell? You know what made us sell more of them? When I added $4,000 or $5,000 tables.
Oh my gosh.
Because as soon as I added $4,000 or $5,000 tables, the $2,400 table looks cheap.
Right.
Cheaper. Okay. And all of a sudden we're selling them out. Like, oh, I can't do the 5K. I really want to support the event, so I'm going to do the 2,500.
Right.
We actually raised it to 2,500, so it looked a little bit more normal. But yeah.
Which was your goal originally?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we elevate it. We elevate the food. We elevate the experience. Fleming's is awesome. I mean, look, I know everybody's like, oh, it's not Elway's, it's not Shanahan's. No, it's Fleming's. And I'm telling you, in South Denver, Fleming's is a fantastic steakhouse.
I would put them up against any of those places.
Yeah,
we had people,
really, really good.
I didn't even eat that night. I ate at home, and it still was fresh and tender and delicious. So I'm like coming down.
Yeah, it's like your own wedding, David, right? You don't get to eat it.
No, but that's how good it was. And I mean, people still talk about like, oh, I had a lobster tail and steak that night. Like, when is it again? And I'm like, we heard things about the barn, but not like that.
The barn's different, right? The barn food is good, but it's barbecue type food. Right. I mean, it's very different. So, but at the same time, I mean, what is your other option? It's a hotel. What are you going to get in a hotel? Not nearly as good as a piece of steak.
No.
Not nearly as good. Okay, so, and this was, some people were looking at it like, man, I don't know, Jeff, this is really expensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's going to work. Yeah. And it did.
It did work. It did.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where sometimes when you're doing an event, you have to step out in faith and believe, okay, if this is what we're going to do and we feel called to it and there's peace and all of that, we just got to have faith in that. And I think that's where, you came in and several of our board, you all had faith and everybody got excited about the
because we knew we weren't going to lose money. Right? We knew that.
And that's why I think that's so cool. Like when I think FCA, they put a lot of pressure on staff to plan these events, but what they don't teach is build people around you to help you have that kind of faith or have that business perspective for someone like you to say, dude, you're not going to lose money. Trust me, you're going to sell this out and you're at least going to break even. Because you get business, and so do many of those other board members. And so that gives confidence to a guy who's 70% focused on ministry development versus an event thing. So I think that's, as a director, to elevate your game in that sense, have people that are business minded that have done this to tell you like, hey, you're going to be fine. I mean, hey, the worst case is you break even, but then what if somebody comes up and says, I had such a great experience, I do want to write you a $10,000 check. Yeah. Was breaking even an event worth it? Sure was.
I agree with you. And it's also because we want to attract certain types of people to come to those events. And look, I'm here to tell you, and you know this, right? You've been in this for a long time. Rich people aren't generous. Generous people are generous.
Right.
Okay.
So true.
So it's not that, hey, I just need to invite a bunch of rich people, but I want to create an intimate, fun atmosphere. I don't love hotel galas. I just don't.
Yeah.
I love this model. And so Fleming's is a very intimate room.
It is.
And you can have like a really good conversation with people.
We did.
And it's an entry point. Like, again, the whole point, we see this all the time in Elevate Your Event. It's not about like, hey, buy them a steak dinner, give them a speech, and then see them next year. No. I mean, so let's talk about, as we kind of evolve everything we've been doing and wrap this up, we also introduce another type of event throughout the year. And it's been hit or miss, but I mean, I think that the principles remain. Talk about conversations with champions.
Yeah, I actually really love conversation with champions because it does create that, hopefully that intimate feeling of potential donors seeing and feeling and touching the ministry. And I think that idea came from you actually. And so we've just been able to put that together. And so what Conversation with Champion is it's a person out in the marketplace or a former athlete that we would consider a champion on and off the field to share their testimony. And it's a Q&A format, so it's not someone that gets up and gives a speech, but they're interviewed in a way that really pulls out their story of how they live out their faith in whatever environment that is. So we've had college quarterbacks, we've had professional coaches, we've had NBA commentators, we had a general come who is now in charge of the playoffs and question all his decisions. But he was awesome.
He was in charge. He was the former commandant or commander of the Air Force Academy, and then became the head of the selection committee for the college playoffs.
Right.
Like, yes, he got bombarded. I don't think he's coming back.
I don't think so either. I don't think so.
Not after who they picked in the last one. But and we just had an NFL referee.
Right.
And who was previously involved in FCA in Colorado. And what a fascinating conversation. But the point of these, and we had Clint Hurdle, right, from the Rockies. The point of these is not just, obviously, it's for the business community to come in here and hear faith stories, but also hear kind of a little bit of insider stuff. Like, I remember, because this was a resurrected event as well, and FCA did a few of them in the past, and I helped the FCA get Clint Hurdle to come in literally like 2 weeks after he was fired back in like 2008.
Oh my gosh.
And the room was packed. Why is the room packed? Did they want to hear about Clint Hurdle's faith? They really did. They really wanted to hear about why he got fired.
I'm sure.
But again, that's good.
It is.
Because you've got people coming in the door that are like, I want some NFL insider stories. I'm going to hear this NFL ref. I want to ask them questions about the chip in the ball,
right,
and their new first down stuff and what rule changes are happening. And like, I want to hear all of that.
Does the NFL favor the Chiefs?
Right.
Stuff like that.
That came up. So he wouldn't answer it. But anyway, but those types of things, like you intermingle in the faith element and also what our needs are.
Right.
And you're building a relationship with the business community, because what's our goal with Conversations to Champions?
Yeah, and I think I just go back to what you had mentioned, is that they're micro events. They're events to give people a sample size of what the ministry is, to then potentially invite them to the next event.
Steak and teas. I want them to buy a table there.
Yeah,
and to get them to buy a table, I might have to see them 3 or 4 times at a Conversations with Champions
before they'll make a decision.
And then just call them and be like, man, you come to 3 of these. This is awesome. We want you to go deeper with us.
Yeah.
How about you buy a table of steak and teas? Right?
Well, I think that, and I think that's all about elevating your events. Is you have strategic micro events to invite them to your big events, so that are where you can intimately connect with them and begin that generosity with them. But yeah, I think that's all the strategic stuff that I've talked about, of elevating our events with purpose, intentionality, and
so let's talk about the mechanical side of this. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when we talk about the intermediate events, right? So we're like, okay, so we're going to do these Conversations with Champions. Mm-hmm. We're gonna build this donor relationship. You've got to do certain things at these events in order to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this isn't about the Handbid software. Like Handbid is a tool that will do that. There's lots of these tools out there that will do this, but you've got to be intentional about what?
Yes. Capturing donor information.
Yes. David and I have had this chat before. Have you heard?
Yes, we have.
James is even nodding his head. It's like, yeah, James has been in so many of our podcasts. He's like, I've heard this story before. Yeah, because it's what we've talked about is the micro events are there to obviously educate and entertain the business community. We're really, these are luncheons for the most part, right? So it's a free lunch for somebody who buys a ticket. These tickets are not expensive. The whole point is
they're like $10-$20. No big
It's
deal
not to make money.
No,
it's to break even, but it's to turn, it's to get 50, 75, 100, 150, 200 people maybe eventually coming to these.
Yeah.
They come out, maybe once a month or once every 6 or 8 weeks. And then to capture their info and then start to market, hey, thanks for coming. Here's the next one. And besides the fact that here's the next one, here's our newsletter. And then here's our big gala coming up that we really want you to participate in. And we're not trying to turn Steak and Teas into a 2,000 person event. I'd rather have 200 people in that room spending more money than 2,000 spending less, right?
Yeah.
We want it intimate, right? We've got to really be able to connect with these people.
Yeah, I think that's, I've been to events where there's 1,000 people in the ballroom and, the speaker's on the stage, but there's not that connection of intimacy, or I'm not necessarily being pulled emotionally, like, man, I want to seriously be involved financially.
Right.
But with Steak and Teas, we can really do that. We brought, talk about elevating again. We brought in a couple coaches. We brought in a couple students, and this one student, she delivered a message that you're just like, holy smokes, like, wow, the ministry has really helped her in her growth. And people got around that.
Yep.
And so they can really see a tangible effect of what their investment is going into. And I think that's the whole idea, is to create that.
It's more intimate environments allow you to do storytelling.
Yeah.
And storytelling is powerful. We've talked about that on this podcast, but
yes. But going back to to the functionality, and the most important thing is when we do these events is to capture the contact info of these donors. And I think Handbid, does a great job in that. That I don't know if there's another tool, and the FCA has a terrible CRM, just terrible. So sorry, boss, sorry, Sports Center. But the truth is and it's because it's a system that can be universally given out to 2,500 staff across the country and globally. But there's so many things that it lacks when you're trying to build a donor base, or you're trying to run events. And so, if you're going to run an event, get around the people that this is what they do, and they have the best products. And I don't know if there's another platform like Handbid that does what it does, because of all the features that it has.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
we've been really
that.
blessed with that.
But yeah, and I appreciate that. But I would also say,
But it's on us to capture that.
yes,
It's on us to capture that.
until these tools are fully like AI, and you're just basically logging in and
Right.
saying, Handbid, run my event, okay? You have some work to do.
You do. We do. And that's talking about the good, bad, the ugly, that's the part where us as a staff have to get really just better at, is as we capture information of people, you then can begin those relationships. You
Right.
can begin those phone calls. You can begin it. But if you don't do the first step, I mean,
Right.
it's like going up to bat. If you don't step in the batter's box, I mean, you ain't gonna hit anything. So
Right.
man, step up and let's go. So
Yeah.
So that's the part where we're getting better, but we could be a lot better. So
Right, but I mean, that's the point. It's always a progress.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the whole justification, sanctification thing, right? I mean, we are all works in progress, David.
We are all works. There's a lot of features about Handbid like I'm pretty good at, but
Yeah.
I still got a lot of growing to do.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And so, I was working with a client the other day, client/friend, and he was watching me on a screen share, help him kind of get some stuff going. And I don't do a lot of first tier customer support, but he calls me up and we're chatting. And I said, yeah, let's jump on a screen share. I'll help you fix this. And honestly, just side topic, we loaded 270 items, resized his images, and loaded 270 images in about 15 minutes. Okay.
Wow.
So it is doable.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, can you record this? Because I just need to go back and watch it. Like I can do this, I can do it, but I need to see it. Right. Yeah, it's all that. And he's been using the software for a while. So it's one of those things where it's always something that we progress on.
Right.
And we always, not to be critical, but we come back at an event, right? So we leave the event, we celebrate, and then we turn around and say, how do we make it better?
Yes. I think if you're going to elevate your events, you have to do, whether it's a SWOT analysis or a good, bad, ugly, or whatever way you want to do it. I think in order to elevate, you got to go back and look at what you did right, what you got wrong, and even ask from an outside perspective, even people from the audience. As a matter of fact, there was a lady who had attended our event, and she was really excited about it. Well, so we actually hired her to be our event planner. And so then we asked, well, how would you change some things? And of course, there was a lot of things that she said, I would change this and this. So, but again, now we're hoping going into this year, our event will be even better.
Yeah. I'm confident it will.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but this is good. And if you look at where you've come as an organization from the very first event we ran where the auctioneer missed the entire paddle race speech that you were supposed to give.
He totally did.
He just skipped right over David. So anyway, all of those little things, right, to elevating the venue, elevating the prices to go, and then we're going to continue to elevate different elements of it. I think you're on the right track, man. I tell you what.
Well, I appreciate it. Not only is it growth in our event, but even growth for me. I remember a guy telling me, I was like, man, this is really hard to justify asking someone to pay $300 for a foursome being here at Cherry Creek. And he goes, you're a first class ministry and you need to act like you need to be at first class facilities and not be ashamed of that at all. And I was like,
100%.
I was like, okay, let's go.
100%.
So yeah,
we have that conversation all the time. And again, we'll end on this little sidetrack tangent, but it's an important one. And it's, it's okay to elevate even certain things that you just view as a cost,
right?
Because it creates a certain ambiance or look that you want.
Yeah.
We do that with our brand on our website and our Derby event, because if I'm going to be Denver's classiest Derby event, it has to look classy.
It does.
And that goes down to the wine we serve.
Right.
Right. And so we look at it and people are like, God, I don't know. I mean, can you cut costs here or there? I'm like, no, that's not what we do here. Right.
Right.
We're not going to spendthrift. We're not going to, we don't serve Camus. Okay. We don't, but at the same time, we're not serving yellowtail wine. No offense to yellowtail people, but we're not serving jug wine either. So to do that, right, what we say is if you want to make more money at your event, elevate get people to spend more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Everybody starts with, how do I spend less?
Right.
Okay. And I'm like, let's talk about how we get people to spend more.
Right. Yeah. And I think you have to, as a director of any nonprofit, you have to overcome that and learn to, hey, we're going to have to spend some money on these things and trying to, instead of shortcutting stuff, because man, if you really believe in what you do, then don't sell yourself short, right? Man. Go for it.
And look, shameless plug, but it goes for your software too.
Right.
I mean, everything. It's the staff that come. It's the software you use. It's this one's free. Well, they're hitting up your donors for their money. These software platforms cost money, right? Somebody's paying for it.
Right.
Okay. And it's the same thing. Like when I look at my event and I look at Steak and Teas, we had this conversation. Okay, so obviously we're not included. It's a Christian organization. And regardless of what your beliefs are or not, we're just not going to put wine into the ticket price.
Right.
But people can buy wine there.
Sure.
Okay. And we told should we see if Fleming's will reduce the quality of the wine on their wine list? Nope.
No.
We're not gonna. Right? I mean, these people coming that are spending this money can afford an $85 bottle of wine, and they're paying for it at the table. And so those types of things, no, we're not gonna cheap out on those things. I notice those things, right?
Yeah.
Like when I walk into those things, and it's not that I don't have ridiculous taste, but I have quality taste, right? And I look at this at Cherry Creek Country Club was an upgrade,
a serious upgrade,
right? And it looks good. And people are like, I want to play that course. I can't play that course because it's a private course.
Right.
So this is an opportunity for me to go play.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that. And so, as you're thinking about what you spend and what you do in the future, you're going to be responsible about it.
Of course.
Right?
Of course we
But
would.
you're going to take some risks.
We have to. And I think that's what's exciting about it, because, when you take those risks, you just never know what's going to happen.
No.
There's always...
We're going to elevate the Top Golf event next year. That's 100% happening.
Yes. that's an event we should...
You want to talk about elevated food. It's not there. So we're going to do that.
Not there.
We're going to change it.
Or figure something else out.
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. All right, David, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come out and chat.
This is fun. We'll have to do this again.
All right, for sure.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you guys for listening. Until next time, happy fundraising.
If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.